Good morning, America, and welcome to a new day, a new era, a new epoch in our constitutional republic. I want you to wake up, pay attention, stop your crying, and be happy and rejoice. Because right now, the old expression, what does not destroy me makes me stronger, Nietzsche-esque applies today. As Admiral Yamamoto said, after Pearl Harbor, we have awakened the sleeping giant and given it a terrible resolve. And I would like to also add, ladies and gentlemen, the following. From that great fabled American patriot, Jack Reacher, who provided me with one of my favorite expressions ever after his first movie, his first incarnation as Tom Cruise. When they picked a fight with Tom Cruise and wanted to take it outside, and Tom Cruise was about to dismantle these people, he looked at this one oaf and said, remember, you wanted this. So remember, Joe Biden, you wanted this. So I want everybody right now to pay attention and to say we are not going to be defeated by this. This is nothing. This is a hiccup. So what? 34 counts, that's the best you can do? This is our man Donald Trump. He eats people like you for breakfast. Go ahead. You've impeached him twice. You were going to even get him with the emoluments clause, for God's sake. This means nothing. Let me say this very, very clearly to you. I want you to be very, very clear. I want you to understand what's going on. This is nothing. You have just unleashed a torrent of anger. And Joe Biden, listen to me. Listen to me very carefully, my friend. You wanted this. When Donald Trump wins re-election, and he will win re-election, you listen to me like you've never listened before. He will win in areas and among demographics you never even thought remotely possible. You have no idea what you've done. You have no idea what you've done. I don't know what you were thinking. You hit him with everything. We can't feel it anymore. We can't tell one from the other. See, I like hot sauce. And I love this. I like not my Scotch bonnets, but I like my Reapers. And I love all this stuff. And I like this new Pepper X. I love this. But you know what happens? If you use too much of it, you can't tell the taste anymore. It's so overpowering. Your head's on fire. And you can't taste anything anymore. You just, it doesn't matter because you're unable to tell one from the other. That's what we are. Do you think we are going to give in with this? Do you think that this conviction means anything? Convictions? Do you think that this idea that, well, what if he's not able to vote in Florida? Do you know you just handed him re-election? Thank you. Can you indict him some more, please? Hey, Alvin Bragg, can you do this some more? Can you throw some more in on there, Alvin? Do you mind? Can you do this, Al? Can you do this for us, Al? We'd really appreciate it. Because there are people right now who never thought they'd ever cared a thing about him. There are people right now who listen to what's going on and they're saying, enough. What they're doing is enough. What are you doing? Nobody even understands what happened. Nobody even understands. Nobody can even explain to you what happened. What is this? I don't even know. But you know what's behind us? He's not going to prison. He's not going to jail. It's going to be some probationary something or other. You know it. I know it. And that's the way that is. This is the biggest nothing burger ever. Now, let me also tell you something, Alvin Bragg. You didn't do anything. You know who did it? Matthew Colangelo, the Department of Justice. Same thing goes for Tish James. You didn't come up with this. You think Alvin Bragg knows about the falsifying business record statutes. Are you kidding me? He didn't even want the case before until they said, oh, no, Al, you work for us. By the way, get some coffee for us. Beat it. We're in charge. Okay. When this gentleman decided to speak before the world after this, I'm thinking to myself, speak about what? You didn't do anything. Now, let me tell you something. You better listen to me and listen good, because you know I love you. And I've been through this and I know what's going on. Number one, take a day off today. Don't watch anything except me. You got me? Follow me on YouTube at Lionel Nation. Okay? Oh, I'm different. Oh, I'm different. Oh, like you can't believe. You follow me, okay? Don't watch anything. No View, no Meager and Joe, no Zika and Joe, the Zika virus, no Maddo, nobody. And why in the name of God was Todd Blanchard on CNN? What are you doing? This is the way you act? This tough guy said, I didn't even recognize him. And let me also tell you something. Don't give me this stuff about, oh, our country is fine. Because believe it or not, this Constitution is still alive. It ain't going anywhere, and so are we. Let me explain something to you. To all my dear friends, salute. Oh, this is the end. This is injustice. Injustice? Where should I start? Where have you been? Where have you been? Want to go back to Vietnam? Let's start off. Want to go back to Watergate? How they railroaded Nixon? We still don't even know who killed John Kennedy. We still don't even know. Well, we do know. Well, at least we know who didn't kill Bobby Kennedy. Nobody cares about that. Every day there's 2,300 kids missing, never to be seen from again. 2,300. And you think this is unfair? Parents who tried to get pictures of their kids off of social media platforms, and the law said, no borders. We have no border security. And you think this is the worst thing that's ever happened? Our sovereignty is under attack. Our sovereignty. And you think this is under attack? Are you kidding me? This is nothing. Now, they're going to do everything in their power to laugh and gloat. Let them. But remember, you wanted this. Remember this, Joe Biden. You wanted this. Remember, this was your idea. At least, so they say. You, with the Sicilian flu, walking around, doing everything in your power to convince people that you're in charge. You're not in charge. Even last night, he realized they told him, don't push it. Don't push it. See, there's one thing that he didn't have. There's one thing that he didn't do. There's one thing, and I'll tell you this much about him. It's nice in a way, but not really. Let me explain. He's kind. He's kind. He doesn't have this vicious side to him. He doesn't have this vicious side to him. He doesn't have this brutal, ruthless side to him. He never went after Hillary Clinton. He didn't. It's not his nature. It's not his nature. The man's compassionate. He's got a heart of gold. I'm sorry. It's true. That changed. That changed starting now. It's over with. It's over with. Oh, this is over with. Let me explain to you something, Mr. Biden. As you know, it has been alleged that you and your son are most probably involved in a series of conspiracies to do everything imaginable to defraud this country and our beloved republic of everything you can imagine. What you have been responsible for and with and regarding boggles the mind. And for the longest time, you've had this idea that, well, the rules don't apply. And you know what? They haven't applied. They really haven't. They haven't applied to you. They haven't applied to you. For reasons I don't know, but it's true. Absolutely 100% true. This is true. They went after the president for the most monumentally incredible things ever even imagined. To wit, January the 6th. You want to talk about no justice? What about Ashley Babbitt? Anybody care about Ashley Babbitt? And by the way, let me begin by saying to Kelly Ayler-Gerald, a new member, and RJ Ignatius Everyday Hot Sauce, a new member, thank you as well. Ashley Babbitt. You want to talk about it? What about her justice? What did she do? Do we know the name of the individual who shot her? No. Any charges brought against him? No. You want to talk about injustice? You think this is injustice? How about the January 6th warriors? How about individuals who dared to protest something they didn't like? What? Do they have to ask for permission? I don't think so. Did any of the George Floyd looters, robbers, domestic terrorists, and Antifa co-conspirators, did they ask for permission? I don't remember that. Joe Biden the other day in Philadelphia was saying that they were that Donald Trump would want to tear gas them. And Joe Biden said, can you imagine if they were black? Excuse me, did you see any black folks arrested or charged with it? You know there were black folks there, right? In January 6th. You know that, right? You know that. They weren't charged. Why do you think that is? Coincidence? Happenstance? I'm glad they weren't. I don't think anybody should have been charged. You want to talk about injustice? You want to talk about that? They charge the president. They're trying to, by the way, impeach him again, but also charge him with seditious conspiracy, insurrection. It doesn't even make any sense. For what? Hillary Clinton's the biggest denier there is. Hillary Clinton came up with, and they came up with this false story of Russian collusion, paid, I guess, was a Global GPS and others and these other folks to contrive, concoct, and conspire to transmit this false fantasy of Russian collusion. They're a denier. You think Trump is? Stacey Abrams, denier. The whole story was a denier. They wanted this repeat. They even said remember they picked up the phone. Trump picked up the phone to call Zelensky or whatever. Everything he did. And yet they make him out to be a denier. Anybody here want to deny the 2020 election? They stole it legally. That's the way it works in this country. Is it rigged? Sure, it's rigged. Legally. Was yesterday's verdict rigged? Yes, legally. Did Judge Mershon break any laws? Nope. Are they going to reverse this on appeal? Nope. Is President Trump going to jail? Nope. Going to prison? No. Is he going to be a convicted felon? Mm-hmm. Yep. And wear it like a badge of courage, sir. You go on, you say, whenever you do, you remind them, Mr. President, excuse me, that's Mr. Convicted President to you, sir. I wear it proudly. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Jesus Christ, St. Paul. Shall I go down the list of people who have been charged and prosecuted? It's the oldest trick in the book. But don't remember, Joe Biden, don't forget, you're next. Remember, Joe, you're next. Remember, Joe, you wanted this. You wanted this, Joe. You wanted this. You kept pushing this. You thought there's no way I'm going to lose. And through some weird Dorian Gray kind of thing, have you noticed with me that President Trump is getting younger? He is the age is reversing. He eats the worst possible food and doesn't age. He never loses his countenance. And let me tell you, listen to me, dear friends. Are you listening? Good. Wait until you see the next rally. I don't know if they have the facilities. Maybe we should call Sam Yasgur. I think he passed away. We might want to go up to Bethel, upstate New York, because this will make Woodstock look like a Home Depot parking lot. People who've never been involved love him. Let me say this again. Look at me carefully. Pay attention to me. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I am a political atheist. I hate politics. Hate it. But I love this man. I love this man. This is the greatest president of my lifetime. I was born during Eisenhower. Okay? And he was okay. I've seen them all. Well, since then. Nobody has done for me. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt as much of an American as I am? I used to laugh at people who had flags. I can't get enough flags. I can't get enough. Ladies and gentlemen, our good friend Ryan says, how long before the appeal is heard? And what are the chances of his convictions overturned? The answer is they're going to never want to hear this appeal. It's going to be a state appeal, Ryan, and thank you, by the way. It's going to be a state appeal, state court of appeals. In New York, it's a weird court system. The trial court is called the Supreme Court. The intermediate appellate court is the appellate division, and the Supreme Court is called the Court of Appeals. They will take forever for that. Why? Because they don't want to even hear this. They want this conviction to stay. Are they going to overturn it? Nope. No. Who could grant him? Who could grant him clemency or a pardon? Kathy Hochul, the Democratic governor. Ain't going to happen. He doesn't want this. Forget the appeal. Forget it. Don't even talk about it. Forget it. No, it's not going to. No. And we knew this. We knew. I know. Everybody. I have been telling you, and I've been saying for the longest time. I said he will be convicted. He will be convicted. Everybody knew that. By the way, Alan Dershowitz. Oh, Alan Dershowitz, the genius. I knew this. I predicted. Alan, take it easy. Take it easy. This wasn't exactly novel. This wasn't exactly going out on a limb. I knew it. I'm a genius. Yes, you are. Okay, you're a genius. By the way, let me answer you before I change the subject. They're not gonna. It's gonna be there. It's gonna be there. They're going to affirm the conviction on appeal. Nothing's gonna happen. Don't worry about it. Can Trump vote in? Can he vote in Florida? Florida has a deal. As long as he's not in prison, Florida will acknowledge New York's because it happened in New York. Who cares about the voting? Who cares about this? Doesn't matter. I'm sorry, but I want the president to say, I can't vote. They want to put me in prison. They won't let me. They will do every, and July the 11th, was it 4 or 5 days before the convention? You don't understand something. They don't want me to be your president. They're doing everything in their power to keep me from being your president. Let me say this again. Great Britain, France, India, North Korea. I don't want to hear anything about Putin and Kim Jong-un and all this. Oh, I mean, I don't hear about Banana Republic. None of that stuff. No, we're on our own. What they did to me, nobody can even comprehend. White Monkey says, has there been a more corrupt period in U.S. history? Yes. Yes, I believe so. During the Franklin Pierce administration. But not like this. Not like this. So you're right. Boycott New York City. Well, I wouldn't do that. The people of New York City don't want this. People of New York City, you saw what people did. What people did during the Bronx. You remember that with the president of the Bronx? By the way, thank you, by the way, for your kindness. New York City is disgusted by this. You know who loves him now? Black folks, Latinos, gays, whites, browns, women, name it. There's something that is inherently American. Let me explain this to you. When somebody is just basically treated so poorly, so unfairly, where you say, that's enough. Have you ever felt patriotism like you have with Donald Trump? Have you felt patriotism like you have with Donald Trump? Have you seen, you always know when you're in Trump country. Why? Because there's flags. There's always flags. Have you noticed that? Isn't that something? This Democratic iteration, and by the way, I know a lot of good Democrats out there who never signed on to this. Never signed on to this. I don't know where this came from. I have no idea where these rancid, horrid people came from. But do you know what we've been through? First, some good news. And here's the good news. You ready for this? Okay. Let me make sure we understand ourselves. President Donald Trump will be reelected November the 5th. And that, my friend, election day is 158 days from today. Let me say this again. Let me make sure you understand what I'm saying. Let me make sure you grasp the absolute truth of what I am saying. Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, will be re-elected for the second time since Grover Cleveland, 2 non-consecutive terms. Unbelievable. Okay? Re-elected. Let me say this again. Re-elected. What was that? Re-elected. Just think about this. Remember the line from Raging Bull, when Robert De Niro, the actor Robert De Niro, who, by the way, is the same actor in every movie, with the exception of Rupert Pupkin, the king of comedy. Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta, Robert De Niro. And the Mission of, hey, give me the cross, same guy. Meet the Fokker, same guy. Everything, same guy. Analyze this, obviously, playing a parody. In Analyze This and Analyze That, he played a parody of himself, and it was himself. Casino, the same guy. There's one actor. You've been conned in this thinking for the longest time. He's a genius. He's a moron. He is a Boeotian. He is devoid of any noticeable mentation, cerebration. They had to give him a piece of paper to read. He didn't even know enough of his hate for Donald Trump. He goes on these wild, coprolalic, profane diatribe, and it's the most incomprehensible gibberish anybody has ever heard. And why, by the way, do you think he's there? Why? Because they own him. Like they own Diddy, like they owned Weinstein till they tossed him away, and like the way they also owned Alec Baldwin and they tossed him aside. Why is that? My friends, if you've never heard me before, let me stop you and ask you two things, two favors, and I promise you I'm not going to bring this up again. Because when I watch any kind of YouTube channel, I always get so annoyed by this. But I must say this at least once, so bear with me. I ask that you subscribe to the channel. For reasons I do not understand, sometimes people who subscribe are unsubscribed. I don't know why. Maybe it's a fluke or whatever it is. So please subscribe. Lionel Nation on YouTube is number one. And number two, and I'm going to say this one time, I promise, please like this. Likes are the algorithmic metric that gives us life. It pushes us into a new lane of traffic. It makes us available, makes us viewed by others. I represent a new breed. I represent you. You and I have never been slaves to political parties, ever. We don't even know what that means. What does this mean? We've never been slaves to, we're not into cable news. We don't care about Fox or the other one. We don't look at these people as being anything but TV commentators. We are independents. We are people who live independent of this. Mr. Evan Webb says, what a mess we have made of our legal system. I feel he can still win, but if a felony can be put up someone and they can still become POTUS, what does this say about our nation? I am from Texas, and if the Democrats do win, I want to see my state leave the union. Well, Evan, first of all, thank you so much for your kindness. Number one, God bless the great state of Texas. There are 3 states in our union, because we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. A democracy is tyranny by the majority. A democracy is, I think Franklin may have said, it's two wolves and a sheep debating what's for lunch. We are a constitutional republic. We don't just, it's not whoever is the most people. There was a time when we thought slavery, most people were for slavery. 13th Amendment fixed that. We are a constitutional republic. This is it. Not the flag, it's the Constitution. Never, ever give up on this. Never give up. Never. That's number one. Number two, Article 2 of the Constitution is the only consideration, my dear friend. And again, kindness. I appreciate your kindness. Article 2 is the only provision that provides for what is required for a president. 35 years old, natural born citizen, and to be a consistent resident of the country for 16 years. People forget that one. Herbert Hoover was out of the country for a long period of time, and he might not have even been qualified under that. That's it. It's nothing to do with being a felon. Nothing. Eugene V. Debs. In 1920, ran for president in prison. What was he in prison for? The Alien and Sedition Clause statute. I believe it was he spoke out against World War I. There was an attack, my friends, on our freedom of speech. This is the United States of America. You are entitled to say anything. We're not going to bring up the obvious. We're not going to bring up things like libel and slander and yelling theater in a crowded fire. No. They want to go after us. They want to even stop you from saying things which are, quote, anti-Semitic. I don't know what that means. Next, you won't be able to say something that is racist. Next, there'll be a criminal sanction against somebody saying something that is hateful. Next, misinformation, disinformation, bad information, name it. Hot Pocket says Trump has a concealed carry permit. This conviction will void that. Well, it could very well be a convicted felon. Yes, it could very well be. In most cases, under the rules of under. And by the way, these vary from state to state. But in the old days, a convicted felon meant the following: number one, you cannot hold office. Different here. Number two, you cannot be a juror. Number three, can't vote. Number four, carry a firearm. How that affects individually, I don't know. Then there's also restoring. Normally, you can restore. I've had clients before we restored their civil rights, with the exception of firearms, and even that may change. Listen, don't worry about this. Remember, everything in the world that they can throw at Trump, he's going to use in his behalf. He's going to say, listen, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I'm worried about you. If they can do this to me, I'm an ex-president. Think about what they can. I hate these things. Let me get this. Excuse me for that. These reaction bubbles. I don't know where this comes from. Anyway, if they can do this to him, they can do this to you. That's what he's saying. That's the critical part of what's going on. They can do this to him, to you. And this has always been, if you think for a moment, if you think that somehow this country of ours, look, I'm a lawyer. I'm a licensed lawyer. I swore fealty to the Constitution. I know what I'm talking about. I have seen this over and over and over again. You think that this country is under attack? We live in a country where they can take your child away from you in certain jurisdictions. They can take your child away from you and decide that your child cannot be with you because your child one day may wake up and feel like, I feel like I'm a boy or a girl or whatever it is. And I want to have gender reassignment. And in certain states, what they're doing is they're saying, well, guess what? In some particular states, if a parent does not necessarily concede to that, does not agree, does not consent, in more and more jurisdictions, they will take your child away from you. Why? Because your child seeks and desires gender reassignment surgery, mutilation, castration, penectomies, hysterectomies, orchiectomies, the ablation of gender, the obfuscation of identity. And if you, as a parent who has lost parental primacy and authority and autonomy, if you dare to stand up against it, you will have some 23-year-old caseworker with no children, with no experience, come in and petition a court to have your parental authority terminated permanently. Think I'm kidding? Think I'm exaggerating? That can't happen to me, right? I know what I'm talking about. I've been in every division there is when it comes to criminal law. Misdemeanors and felonies and traffic and stuff. And the thing that scared me the most, or I couldn't believe what I was seeing, was family court, juvenile justice, CPS, termination of parental rights, abuse, neglect, and abandonment, with a concomitant exhibition of horrors being exacted upon children you cannot believe. The future is not bright. Timbuktu, was Timbuk3, I should say. I think I need shades. No, I think I need a welding mask or something. It's horrible. What you have in store, you have no idea. And we're seeing this. And the problem is simply this. Do you know who the worst culprits are? The people that I blame the most? The Republicans. The Fox News phonies. The ones who smile in your face all the time, that want to take your place. I believe they're called the backstabbers. I believe our friends from Philly, the OJs, told us this. Those quizzlings pretending, crying crocodile tears. Oh, President Trump, we love you so much. It's a travesty. Where were you when the president dared to challenge the threat? They were so worried by these Dominion lawsuits, they never even put on a witness. And remember all those folks? Remember their texts back and forth? Remember this? Remember this? Tucker, Hannity, Ingram, back and forth. Remember what you said about the president? But now you love him. Now he's great. Make up your mind. Make up your mind. You're seeing a bunch of people who realize that their platform is over. It's done. It's finished. This is the platform. Fox News, CNN, MSDNC. They're like that star that burned out millions of years ago, but the light hasn't hit us yet. You think you see it. You think it's still there, but it's been gone millions of years ago. You're looking at nothing. You're looking at the shadow, the memory of something. This is a part of a revolution, my friend. There are people. Elon Musk is one of the most important people in the world. And by the way, Tucker, notwithstanding, is now getting his sea legs because he couldn't believe it. They chopped him off at the knees. And he realizes, wait a minute, I'm going to be on my own. Good for you. You know who else has been terrific? And you're going to see people make almost like, it's like Phoenix. Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, the most important, biggest star, biggest media person around. Lex Friedman, one of my favorites. You're seeing a new configuration regarding foreign policy. Judge Napolitano, John Mearsheimer, Scott Ritter, Jeffrey Sachs, go down the list. Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, the Gray Zone. People that I didn't even want to listen to before. Now we're saying, wait a minute, this is a new configuration of the world. Of the world. Let me show you something right now. I bought this, my friend. This is from when the dollar store was $1. And this is our beautiful blue dot. And Klaus Schwab was correct about one thing. This is going to be the Great Reset. You're going to see things your parents never even imagined. Your grandparents wouldn't even conceive of. Everything. When Alex Jones, he's crazy, right? He's crazy. When you talked about globalism, does it make sense to you now? Ladies and gentlemen, Taco Woman Randy Savage says, I worry that the FBI is going to convince someone to retaliate. The establishment is frothing from the mouth for this. Well, first of all, Taco, thank you for this. I would not worry about the FBI. I would not worry about the CIA or the NSA. I would worry about people who are non-governmental. NGOs scare me more. The Last Roman says, are there any legal actions that can be taken against the obviously corrupt Judge Merchan? No. And thank you for this. No. What Judge Merchan did was absolutely and completely legal. Absolutely. Do you think he was biased? Of course he was biased. Is that illegal? No. Should he have recused himself? Not necessarily. Do you think that Judge Alito should recuse himself because his wife flew a flag? No. Well, do you think Judge Merchan should recuse himself because his daughter works for Democratic people? No. Do you think that Judge Thomas should recuse himself because Ginny Thomas, his wife, was associated with conservative efforts? No. Let's be consistent. No. I don't worry about the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. I worry about organizations that don't have names. I'm worrying about ideologies. I'm worried about groups of people. I'm worried about a group called the shadow government. It's not the deep state, the shadow government. Thank you, S. Carr. Thank you for joining us. I'm worried about a group called the shadow government. And I'm worried about people who are in charge of things that you've never even thought of. If there is an organization that has a name, if there's a business card, they're not in charge. You know who runs the world? You know who runs the world? Is it George Soros? Hell no. If you know a name, they don't run it. It's different. It's a conglomeration. I have a friend of mine who is a medical school professor, and we talked one time about cancer. Evan Webb, by the way, says all the dystopian tales in one is how it's feeling. It is, but it's always been like this. Let me tell you something, Evan, and thank you, sir. Little analogy, cancer. And my name is Larry. Float on. Sorry. I asked a friend of mine one time, I said, is cancer environmental? Is it genetic? Is it random? The answer is yes. Yes. It's a fascinating subject. And such is this globalistic horror show that we're observing right now. It's incredible. This horror show that we're existing. Let me explain to you what's going on. Who runs the world? A conglomeration. The UN, the think tanks, and CFR, and remember the trilaterals, and the Vatican, and the churches, and entertainment. Remember what Breitbart said? Breitbart. By the way, you think he died of a natural death? You got to be kidding me, right? You got to be kidding. Remember what he said right before he said, we're going to expose Barack Obama for whatever. Next thing you know, heart attack. You noticing how so many people are just all of a sudden just dropping dead? Let me tell you something. If I told you and showed you what really is going on, you would not believe it. If I showed you the universe in terms of living creatures and species, and you wouldn't believe it. If I told you the real truth regarding history, remember what Tolstoy said. Commit this to memory, dear friends. Commit this to memory. Tolstoy said history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. When you go to school, what are you taught? Indoctrination, brainwashing, menticide, brainwashing. You are indoctrinated, subjugated. You are pushed into thinking patterns where you're not able to think for yourself. There's no critical thinking in this world. And as soon as you say something that's right, they jump on you. You only take flack when you're over the target. As Gore Vidal said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy analyst. And everything is a conspiracy. What is that? An evil, dark, secret confederation and agreement between two or more people to bring about something that is contrary or negative to the world. That simple. That is a conspiracy. A confederation. A confederation. Listen to what I'm saying. A confederation of evil. Of evil. A confederation of evil. And everywhere around us, we see it. Everywhere around us, we see it. You have no idea what's happening. And what do we do to fix this? Very simple, my friends. We come out of the woodwork. And the first thing you do is you say, number one, you look at me right now and you promise me You are going to vote for President Donald J. Trump. Do I have your word? Is there anyone here? And if you are from out of the country, we love you. You are brothers and sisters in spirit. Promise me. Promise me. I want there to be a landslide. I want this to be a tsunami. I want this to be so incredible, so huge, so gargantuan, so beyond the realm of reason, beyond anything anybody could even anticipate or think could be true. I want this to be colossal. Number two, I want you to use social media. The greatest thing in the world, the greatest news source for us right now is X. I still call it Twitter. I still say album. I'm a kid of the 60s. I was a child of the, I really grew up in the 70s when the music was better, but that's a different story. I want you to be a part of this. Get an account. Follow the news. The fastest you will learn is on Twitter. God bless Elon Musk. God bless this man. God bless this man. Next, reject everything that is contaminating your brain and your heart and your spirit. Ignore them. Cable news, ignore it. Turn it off. You will learn nothing. They're trying to mollify you. They're trying to sedate you. They're trying to to stultify you, including Fox News. You don't understand something. Remember the old expression, if you know anything about the mob? When a person is dispatched by the mob, whom do they select to do it? Somebody close to you, your friend, somebody you would never suspect. If you're going to go in and contaminate a group of people who have identified themselves as being conservative, how would you hurt them? By what? You think Meager Brzezinski is going to do anything? You think Rachel Maddow is going to do anything? No. You go after Fox News. And you get somebody like Rupert Murdoch who said, look, I'm going to make a deal. I'm scared out of my mind with Dominion. I don't even want to be in this anymore. I've got two sons and their lefty daughters who don't want anything to do with Fox News. Don't be surprised if one day they turn. They're going to keep the revenue, obviously, because the cable franchise fees and all that kind of jazz. But believe me, their heart's not in it. That's why they got rid of Tucker. That's why they got rid of Tucker. And that's why the smartest people in the world, like Hannity, understand this. And by the way, he's a good man. I've known him for years. He's the luckiest man in the world. Anybody who follows Rush and Bill O'Reilly is the luckiest man in the world. And what does he say? Nothing. Nothing. No hits, no runs, no errors. He is repeating and rehashing 1980s Reagan sloganeering. He's harmless. He's like have any of you wonderful people ever been to a radicchio, one of these Brazilian steak places, like a there's one in New York called Churrascaria Plataforma. It's one of the best. And you have you have the sword, you have the coaster green, the green side. They keep bringing you the meat, right? They bring you the meat, and they always save the best meat at the end. They give you this. But what do you see when you first walk in there? What do they show you? A salad bar to fill you up, to dampen your appetite, so they don't sell you the good stuff. That's what Fox News does. They fill you up with this garbage. They put on the same people, the same barking dogs over and over. They're not even remotely telling you the truth. Are you getting? And I know you agree with me. See, we scare these people like you cannot believe, and they call us crazy. Now, there's one thing I am not, my friend. I am not crazy. I am not crazy. Believe me when I tell you that. I'm anything but. I know what I'm talking about. And I read things and I have an imagination that you cannot believe. You cannot believe. Listen to what I am saying to you. You cannot believe what I know. Let me tell you what's going to hurt one day. Let me tell you what's really going to kill us and you and your family. How many of you wonderful, great people have children or grandchildren? When do you think? When do you think? Sorry, must respond to this. You know what I worry about for my children? You know what I worry about? You ready for this? Things that nobody's talking about. Artificial intelligence poses an existential threat to humanity, specifically artificial general intelligence. Number 2, hydro-imperialism. Hydro-imperialism is going to be the war for water. Water will be the casus belli. Mark my words. Why do you think they offed Libyan chief Muammar Gaddafi, who, by the way, has 7,500 different spellings of his name, with a Q, a G, a K? Anyway, water. Next, biomedical tyranny. Biomedical tyranny. Do you know what happened to us during COVID? Do you know what happened? You know what contaminated us? You know what hurt us? We gave in and we gave up. We sat back and we let every aspect of our sense of, wait a minute, hold it, be supplanted. And whom did they get to crush us? Who was it? Like Fox News. It wasn't Fauci. They didn't get Fauci. That's not it. It wasn't that Walensky or Zelensky, whatever I'm seeing. No. You know who they got? Your neighbor, your cousin, the Karens with the masks. When I see somebody wearing a mask right now, my soul drops. My soul dies. I'm looking at the mask and saying, what are you afraid of? What the hell is the matter with you? What is this? Ladies and gentlemen, we call him Sparky, and he says, seems like now people with the most formal education in the U.S. are the most indoctrinated. They find discomfort in thinking outside the establishment premise. To them, to do otherwise would be rude. Oh, absolutely, dear friend. Sparky, you were so correct. And Sparky, I'm sure you agree with this. Do you know what they're trying to do at our college campuses? They're trying to destroy free thought and expression. And I don't care what you think about Israel or Palestine or Gaza or Rafah or Netanyahu or Abu Mazen or anybody. I don't care. Or Ukraine or Putin. It doesn't matter. It's your opinion. And you have the right to protest anything. And I can't keep diplomas from you because you dare to utter something which is contrary to what Lindsey Graham thinks. And if you're going to sit back and you tolerate that or countenance that, you're not an American. This is America. And you're right, Sparky, indoctrination. You see, they take people, and I'll give you an example. Alex Jones. Alex Jones sometimes jumps up and down. Alex Jones sweats. Alex Jones. The other day, we got a guy called the Pope who sits in a dress talking to Norah O'Donnell about, I don't even know what. Now, I'm a retired Catholic and I respect Catholic faith, the Orthodox. I understand it. The nuns and the people who were responsible gave me the best education ever. And I mean that. I have absolutely nothing, but I have no problem. I'm not one of these angry, these folks who all, recovering cat. No. First Amendment right here. Establishment Clause, Free Exercise Clause. The ability for you to express yourself religiously is an absolute constitutional right. Whether you like it or not, that's what the rules say. That's what the rules say. Now, did that man look weird to you? I'm sorry. He's wearing a dress and he's talking about using a word that is now considered to be homophobic regarding. Now, is that okay? Do you hear what he has to say? He's entitled to it. But Alex Jones is crazy, but he's not? What? Wait a minute, what? What are you talking about? You see how they pick people? And believe me, give me the people who are called crazy any day of the week. Georgia at the lake says, put the lime in the coconut and drink it all up. Thank you. Great Harry Nilsson, my friends. So let me get this straight. You put the lime. I love that song. Where are you? We are in the midst right now. We are in something right now that is so critical. I started backing into the world of talk radio when talk radio was just the nascent. It was like kind of pre-Rush. And I have seen this. And I was at WABC, Morning Drive. I was there with Bob Grant, Rush Limbaugh, and I am telling you, I saw it. I saw a revolution that Rush Limbaugh was responsible for. Do you remember when he had Rush rooms? Do you remember when when restaurants at lunch were saying we have no lunch business because people are in their cars eating? Because Rush Limbaugh was so huge, because he was so revolutionary. And by the way, he was a great man and one of the nicest human beings you ever want to meet. He was a revolution. With all due respect to that great El Rushbo, as he's called. What you're seeing right now is so revolutionary, I don't even think you grasp it. The lovely and ineffable Dan Howell says, Lionel, we have secession requirements and a process to add a state to the union. But what about process to expel a state from the union or to dissolve the union altogether? That's a bit extreme, Dan, but I'm sure that I think Mr. Lincoln probably would have a lot to say about this. One of the provisions, I would imagine, of the Constitution is, yes, you can dissolve the union if you want. Certainly you can. Absolutely. I don't want to do this. Let me tell you what I believe in this. And I mentioned this about Rush, because Rush could not have imagined what we're seeing right now. I love America. I know this sounds so corny, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound corny? But corny is true. The reason why corny is because it's true. I love America. I love our people. I love our food. I love our music. The greatest thing we ever did is music. We're a good bunch of people. We are not racist. Most people, most Americans could not care less about race, gender, anything. We're busy. Just leave us alone. Oh, there's a few nuts you hear about, but for the most part, we are the greatest. I mentioned before about mentioned Texas. The three states responsible that I think have their own identity is Texas, Louisiana, and West by God, Virginia. These are completely different. A friend of mine one time was traveling through West Virginia, and he showed up to a little, kind of like a 7-Eleven, sort of a little, we'd call them a bodega here, but that's not it. It's like a 7-Eleven. And they had cigarettes, whatever, and brass knucks. And he said, West Virginia. Louisiana, parish. Napoleonic Code, I guarantee, Zydeco, Arcadians, unbelievably. And Texas, Our good friend Brian Ekdahi says, hey, Big Daddy, where is Marty today? I called in when you were on the buzz in Seattle a few times, old school radio. I have not talked to my good friend Marty in a long time, but I will send him your best. Thank you, my friends. Ah, yes, Seattle, the buzz. Those were good days. Those were good days. So what's happening right now, my friends? The president, as you can imagine, the president is feeling pretty low, but he'll do better. And the first time he has a rally, I'm telling you, last night I got calls from people, relatives. One woman said she's feeling so sad. It's like, what is the matter with you? What is the matter? And by the way, do me a favor. Stop reading this crap. This morning, the Daily Mail said, the biggest mistakes that President Trump made. Yeah, running for office. That's the biggest mistake. And he ran, not for him, but for us. Sparky says, I remember Sean as an Atlanta talk radio host. He achieved by hard work and focus, but wasn't capable of original thought. Second tier in Atlanta at best. He was only telegenic once, so made it big. Well, listen, I'm not here, and thank you, by the way, Sparky. I'm not here to say anything, but God bless Sean Hannity. God bless him. It's not my cup of tea. I want something deep. I want something critical. I want other people. My taste, my worldview has nothing to do with anything you're ever going to hear with something that has news, sports, and weather. Or these commercials that say, you could take everything you want by taking a pill. Or remember they had tinnitus and restless leg. How about this new commercial they got now that says, hi, don't ever bathe anymore. I'm Dr. So-and-so. Slap this on in your back, sack, and crack. And it's like, what is this? Have you heard this? That's okay. AM radio's groovy. That's in my blood. It's not for me. David Mudry says, Galileo was on trial, found guilty, and with Trump, here we go again. Oh, absolutely. This is called heresy. David, remember, it's always true. It's heresy. It's the idea that you are saying something that is not conventional. Do you know what listen to me. I'm not going to go through with it, but we have been through this before. Edie Crowley says, move you. Oh, I think love you dearly, Mr. and Mrs. L. Folks, please support Mrs. L on Lynch Warriors. She is doing the greatest work. Let me tell you something right now, and you're right about that. My beloved wife is, if you told me years ago that people would have had the hardest time understanding this. Let me explain something. This is her YouTube channel. It's Lynch Warriors. She is committed to, and by the way, you're looking at this. Me, her. That's it. This is it. No producers, no staff, no team, no nothing. She and I, that's it. I don't want a medal of honor. I'm just saying. And she has been trying. She goes to Albany, state capital here, and goes to Washington to get people to understand what they are doing to children. Let me say something about the president. Let me say something about this great president. And we know this for a fact. There's a group of people that we love to talk about. Indians, Native Americans, indigenous, okay? And you know how we love to talk about them? We love to talk about them in Hollywood. Dances with Wolves. How nice. How quaint. That's it. That's it. Dances with Wolves. We'll say, oh, yeah, it's a Native American. Sasheen Littlefeather. Remember that one? Sasheen Littlefeather. The Indian who accepted the Academy Award for Marlon Brando. Turns out she was Mexican. Okay, fair enough. The group Redbone. Come and get your love. I think they were Mexican too. In any event. There was a group recently involving murdered and missing indigenous women. Mrs. Eld and I were there. It was this group that we're talking about this. And in the middle of this group, we were talking about how, and this is true, the number of, how do I say this? The number of women who are just, who vanish in the world of indigenous Native American types. They're just forgotten. I mean, they Mrs. L was invited along with countless law enforcement agents, tribal elders, to the White House, where President Trump spoke on behalf of missing and murdered indigenous Americans, Indians, for lack of a better word. And it's always funny because I always thought, well, they were called Indians incorrectly, but they refer to themselves as Indian, which is fine. No problem. Okay. Now, what's even more interesting with all of this, which is the most fascinating to me, is that when we were at an event recently, to show you how demented this is, Mrs. L, who has guts like you cannot believe, a backbone, in a group of people says, yes, and I was at the White House. And Donald Trump spoke regarding this. And he's the only one. Joe Biden hasn't mentioned. The Democratic Party, remember, two things, ladies and gentlemen, two things that are the bread and butter of the new economy. It's not crypto. It's human trafficking and extortion. Sparky says, by the way, our good friend Sparky says, I laud Hannity for his hard work and focus. Not everyone is capable of originality. In a way, his story can inspire those who don't have every factor. Oh, that's good. And by the way, he is to be credited. Listen, he's everybody's got certain tastes. Not everybody likes the Bay City Rollers. I didn't. Except for Another Saturday Night. That was kind of catchy. So there's two things going on right now. Extortion, blackmail, Diddy, the fellow who, by the way, met his demise, whose name we can't mention, in a New York holding cell. And of course, Diddy is, and people who were involved in these. By the way, Cat Williams was correct. Oprah, Tyler Perry, Steve Harvey. Just go down the list. There's all these people. Anyway. So when Mrs. L said this, somebody in this particular group said, excuse me, could not take Donald Trump ever having done something right. Said, excuse me. He closed according to this, I don't know who she was. She said he closed or was responsible for closing some school or whatever. And Mrs. L said, excuse me, did you just hear what I said? I said he spearheaded legislation, and Bill Barr was there as well. I wasn't, she was there. But they don't want to hear this because Trump derangement syndrome should be in the DSM-5. It is a preoccupation. It is a demented, contaminated mindset that paralyzes free thinking, paralyzes free speech, paralyzes original thought. We are a country, we are a people that loves hate. Do you know that? Do you remember all of those people when you see them wearing those masks? They're called mask holes, I believe these individuals are referred to. They walk around still with their N95 to show you, I haven't forgotten. They don't even know why they're doing it, but it was something that separated them. And I believe that there's something, speaking of Native Americans, it is believed that there were some tribes and some iterations of such that would prohibit and eschew the notion of photos being taken because the spirit was somehow stolen. And I think that when you wear a mask, you hide yourself from the world. You obfuscate yourself. Sparky says, we were taught that Columbus thought natives were from India, so he called them Indians. But India wasn't called India back then. I also was heard, and thank you, that the story was that he thought he was in India, or they were looking for some reason, what there's this, the Indio was another word that was had nothing to do with India, but Indio. Of course, Columbus, I think John Cabot had probably more to do with us. Columbus ended up in the Dominican Republic. So again, history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. How many of you, dear friends, were disinvited from Christmas parties? How many of you have suffered because of your allegiance to Donald Trump? How many of you have lost a job, lost let's say a love interest, broken up, got a divorce, couldn't go anymore? Some of you risked physical violence if you wore a MAGA hat. How many of you ever? Edie says you are going to reach 1,000 likes today, Mr. L. Thank you for that, Edie. Edie Crowley, a great friend of the show. I didn't want to bombard you with that, these people who beg for this, but I wanted to thank you because your likes mean quite a bit. But how many, seriously, you have no idea. I don't even want to go through it again. I don't want to go through this. But you don't understand something about me. This is the thing that I've always loved. I've loved the idea of adversity. I love liking the music nobody else likes. In high school, my friends, we weren't into drinking or smoking dope or any of that stuff. And the reason why is because they did it. Not in our school, but people in our generation. And if they did it, I don't want to do it. Well, everybody wanted to talk about the Stones. I was into Joe Beam and Sun Ra and others. Why? Because it was different. I like doing things that are different. I liked the Libertarian Party. It was a good friend of Harry Brown before anybody was even talking about libertarian. Before Bobby Kennedy, that fraud, came along. That complete and utter fraud. I don't know who's good anymore. All I know is Donald Trump. I don't know about his vice president. I don't know. People do this all the time. They just throw names up. What about Tim Scott? Are you serious? No, I just threw it out. What about Tulsi Gabbard? What? You want her as president? You want this Bobby Kennedy wants Nicole Shanahan as possibly stepping in. And I'm sorry to break this to you, and I don't want to be crude, but the Kennedys have not had a good working history in terms of political longevity, if you know what I mean. So consequently, vice presidents mean a heck of a lot more in a Kennedy race than others. And you want this one? People throw these names out. Well, what about? No, it's not like, are you serious? Sparky says it has become known as India from something to do with the Indus River. Before, was it known as Hindustan? As always, my friend, when you provide us with the exposition of a subject heretofore considered arcane and recondite, we are all benefited from it tremendously, and I thank you for that. When I hear the president talk about Nikki Haley, did you hear this? Nikki Haley? If I had to pick somebody for the president, two people. One, a vice president that would get out of the way and not ever try to steal the thunder from the president. Two people another one who could actually take over in the event something were to happen. He's 77 years old, so it's not that out of the realm of horrid possibilities. Steph Cam, thank you immensely. Words cannot explicate my immense thanks to you for your kindness. And I mean that sincerely. But two names come to mind. Number one, Ben Carson. Ben Carson. Why do I like him? He is quiet. He is not self-laudatory, maybe to a fault. He would not overshadow the president. I think he's a good and decent man. I think he's smart. And I don't care whether he's black. DEI means nothing. The fact that he is black, great. Number two, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I think she'd be splendid. She's a woman, good. Because I think the glass ceiling is bigger. Would I pick somebody because they're a woman, because they're black, because they're Asian, because they're blind or whatever? Not because of that. But if they happen to be the best qualified, sure. I don't care about that. I don't care. But I want somebody who understands something. And what this country needs for the longest time is we have to go back and we got to say, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you get rid of this thing called American exceptionalism. We are not the United States that we were when your parents were alive. We are not the post-World War II United States. We may have weapons, but we are not in any way the country we used to be. It is not a unipolar world. I am an absolute, unapologetic fan of John Mearsheimer. Absolutely. And we need realism like you cannot believe. And the first thing we do is we get out of NATO. NATO serves no purpose whatsoever than to raise money for NATO. It's like a bad franchise, but you got to buy into it. I don't understand. We also, who poses, what country poses the threat, the biggest threat to us? What country? China? No. China's always been a, quote, threat to us. We've got people that we, for the longest time, have just dismissed. Ask somebody, who are the Houthis? And you know what Donald Trump can do is the first thing he'll do is he'll say, I'll figure this out. Now, he's not always perfect. And he does things that I do not necessarily agree with all the time. First of all, there's Jared Kushner. Get rid of him. And that stuck up Ivanka, that waste of flesh who said, I'm going to finally say, excuse me, shut up. You backed out of this because you didn't like the heat, because you wanted to be Kim Kardashian, because you're an airhead. Get out of here. Take Jared and get out of here. Don Jr., tone it down. And tell Kimberly Guilfoyle, shut up. Get out of here. The one who actually who's the smartest one of the group is Eric. If you have to have that. Everybody else just loves this stuff. Lara Trump. You trust Lara Trump? Remember, it's always the people around you who will bring you down. Always the people. Always the glad handers. Always the people who say, I love this. It's about me. No, it's not about you. It's about him. We're not electing the family. What is this? The royal family? And by the way, speaking of which, where's Kate Middleton? I think you know where she is. You know Kate Middleton is an experiment, right? You know that, right? You do know this. They just decided we're not going to tell you anything about Kate Middleton. And you're not going to ask any questions. Okay. She just disappeared. One day you're going to wake up and it's sad to say she's going to be gone. And you're going to say, I knew it. I can't believe that people are this quiet regarding this beloved princess. This is an experiment. Absolutely an indoctrination experiment to see, can we do this? COVID was an experiment. This is an experiment. Every time we always learn. Look how people react. Ryan, by the way, says, can you speak to those anti-Trumpers saying Trump can't hold office as a felon because of a security clearance requirement? Sparky says, Newsom Kushner 24. Don't even. By the way, I know you're being funny, but it will be, I still say that Joe Biden cannot last 158 days until the election. Joe Biden cannot last 158 days until the election. It'll be Gavin Newsom. They'll bring him in. Joe will have some kind of a medical condition or something involving his head or aneurysm, something, a checkup, maybe COVID-3, maybe some variant. Who knows? He's also got to get the story together for his Sicilian flu line to keep from being prosecuted once Trump is elected. But there is nothing about security clearance. No, that is absolute nonsense. The President of the United States is category number 1. Now, we'll talk about this very, very important. Article 2 is the only requirement that limits his requisites and prerequisites versus perquisites. Number 1, he's got to be 35 years old. Number 2, natural born citizen. And number 3, he has to have been a citizen continuously for 16 years. Bull Trader says 2020 election was rigged. I suspect the same in 2024. Hold that thought. Very important. Mrs. L would tend to agree with you on this. But as to your question, as far as security clearance, no. The good news is that, well, the bad news is this. Do you believe the President of the United States has the highest security clearance? Who believes that? Anybody? Does the President of the United States have the highest security clearance? Meaning, are there people who know things that the President has no access to? Absolutely. Absolutely. The compartmentalized aspect of the American security, or the American intelligence wing, that's one thing. There are levels that used to be called, I don't know about now, but they're like the 5-letter ones: Zebra, Umbra, Ultra. Those are the top secret. Means nothing. There are more top secret security clearance. There are more people. Washington has like 1 million, I guess, people, or some terrible number of just top secret enough. There are people beyond this. What do you think is the number one? What do you think is the number one most closely guarded secret? The number one, not conspiracy theory, but the number one verboten, not who assassinated Kennedy or either Kennedy. No. The number one is alien life, extraterrestrials, anti-gravitic, whatever it is. Absolutely. A voice from the past, Mr. Bradley Opland, says, how is Trump keeping the voting process legit? Couple of things. I was thinking about you, Brad. Mrs. L and I were traveling. We walked by, pardon me, and I mean that sincerely. We were walking by Carnegie Hall the other day. We're hearkening back to a wonderful performance we saw once that you had recommended to us, and we appreciate that. Okay, here's a story. Too big to rig. Why was last time's even possible? Remember, it was rigged, it was stolen legally. 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 Absolutely. When Leah Thomas, a man, wins a swimming event, she stole it, he stole it, they stole it, whatever, legally. So just because something is legal doesn't mean it's moral, doesn't mean it's whatever. Here is the angle. Too big to rig. Why did Trump lose 2020? Number one, COVID. Number two, voting away from precincts. New stuff. Less paper, less voting, more chances for chicanery. People weren't looking. Next, the Democratic machine didn't care about making sure it was correct. Plus, it was kind of, he didn't win. I mean, he won, I think, in terms of number, but it wasn't enormous. They didn't really understand Biden as much as we do now. Biden, many people said, he's a good guy. I remember the time, we have many friends who are Washington types, and the Washington, they loved him. Washington is the kind of place that watches every morning Joe and Meager and CNN. This is what they believe in. Okay. So at the time there was Trump. A lot of people still didn't like him. The vote was thinner. Whatever that margin was that allowed these margins of error and close calls were much greater then. There was a feeling also that, and see if you can follow this, the more that something becomes reported, the more you acclimate to it and look the other way. So when you had our good friend like Dinesh D'Souza with his documentary, when we saw people in Philadelphia who were boarding up windows so you couldn't even see all of this horrible stuff. People began to almost expect it. They became habituated to it, inured, conditioned. It was a strange thing. The reason, do you know why there's so many crazy Karens on airplanes? Because so many Karens on airplanes are reported. It doesn't dissuade people. It encourages it. It's like when a dog starts barking, they all start barking. So what is he doing this time? Well, a couple things. Sparky says qualifying for security clearance is ultimately subjective. There are guidelines for bulk filtering of people, but no hard and fast requirements. As you should know, having served our country ably, nobody is going to say, I'm sorry, Mr. President, you cannot receive this. You're commander-in-chief, but you cannot receive this security. You have to go to a skiff room. No. What the president needs to do, as I told you before, and this was somebody said this once, and I remember hearing this. I don't know, but I've been saying this for a long time, and I don't know if I heard it and was inspired. I don't ever want to rip somebody off. But I've been saying for the longest time the following. The president walks out one day and says he's surrounded by ninjas wearing the black outfit ninjas. And he comes out and he says, hello, yes, these are ninja outfits. Yes, these are ninjas. They are my Praetorian Guard. They're ninjas. And I have since removed all of the Secret Service details regarding me and my family. We have now ninjas. Number two, we have enlisted at the following precincts or states or whatever, hundreds, if not thousands, of poll watchers, lawyers, election experts, ready to move in, ready to challenge voting procedures, ready to go to court and file injunctions, ready to avail themselves immediately of the particular rules and regulations that appertain to cephalogical accounting and the like. We're not going to be caught flat-footed. You're going to see this Stephen Miller in America First types. You're going to see this absolute move. Trump has to, and listen carefully, he has to reverse lawfare. The Democrats are terrific. This guy Weissman, do you see all these people? Eisner and what's his name? Eisen rather, and George. How about Kellyanne Conway and that creepy husband of hers? Remember that creepy daughter too? Whatever happened to her? These are quislings. You know who else you got to watch out for? Karl Rove. Remember what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm saying. There is a conservative, kind of an old-fashioned version of Republicans that are in the wings, and they never liked Trump in the first place. Edie Crowley says, I have already been shunned from a cult. Any thoughts, Mr. Ellis, how I come out of the closet, that is Trump supporter, only divulged to one friend? I don't think the coast is clear yet. I don't see anything possible. Let me tell you what I do. I have a friend of mine in particular, and maybe you know him too. Very successful, prototypical liberal. And he fancies himself as an ex-hippie. Whenever you hear somebody say, I'm an ex-hippie, it doesn't mean anything. They live in these halcyon days, these pretend periods where everything was groovy, and those days are over with. So what I do is I tell people now, I said, let me explain something to you. Oh, as we're talking, I will say, I am voting for Joe Biden. And he knows something's up. What? I'm voting for Joe Biden. Anyway, I said, let me ask you something. Name one thing Joe Biden has failed at. Name one program that didn't work. Name one thing Joe Biden failed to deliver, or the Democratic Party for that matter. And I asked the most preposterous statement that even he says, oh, come on. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. I've listened to this. Joe Biden's a good man. And I say this, and they look at me and they don't know what to say. And I said, remember when Trump was president? Remember those 4 years? That was hell, wasn't it? And they look at me, and then I move on. Do not engage with crazy people. Let me give you an example of something. Listen to me very carefully. I'm a criminal lawyer by trade, profession, and I had the chance to deal with a lot of very dangerous people, most of all as a defense lawyer after being a prosecutor. And before that, I'm going to tell you a story. This is very important. When you're dealing with somebody who's truly crazy, schizophrenic and the like, never get into their delusion. When I was in college coming up, I was a psych major. We went to this county psych. It was fascinating. Some of the most incredibly schizophrenic people I've ever seen in my life. I mean, very scary, very scary. And the first thing they told me was this. They said, remember something. Don't ever play with them. Don't get cute with them. Don't get into their delusion. Here's what happened. There was a guy one time who walked up to a woman, I think she was in a group, and he had a high school ring or something, some particular ring. And he came out and he said, I'm the king of the world or something, and this is my ring, and something like that. She happened to have a class ring herself. So she says, oh, then I must be your queen, and showed him his ring. And he looked at her and left. A couple of days later, he was stewing over it. She didn't know this. She forgot all about it. It was just she was just being a smartass, right? He came back and he said, I've been thinking about this. And I disagree with you. I don't have a queen. I'm the king. And he hit her so hard, he shattered her orbit. I mean, he just. So never forget, do not get into people's delusion. When you have friends of yours who are rabid, lunatic, Trump, either Trump haters or Biden supporters, you cannot waste your time. Don't get into it. One of the best things I always say to people whenever they say something stupid to me, I say, interesting. That's interesting. And that's it. Do not watch shows. Do not be a part of this lunacy. That's all I'm telling you. My friends, I want to remind you one more time. This is so critical right now, what is happening. And Mrs. L, my beloved, her YouTube channel is critical. Do you know what they're doing right now? They're doing something right now that the left is doing this. They want to have this thing called legalize. They want to legalize the quote sex trade. And what they want to do is they want to put together this idea that says that we have to legalize the sex trade to provide some type of safe or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it. Some kind of safe environment for them. Okay. In Belgium, what they're doing is when they're legalizing this, they're legalizing and decriminalizing pimping and human trafficking. So the person who was the pimp before now is the business manager, the office manager of this concern involving sex trade. So they are now suing the workers for employment contracts, because they are violating the terms and conditions of their employment. They're using the existing laws to do this. I used to say years ago, as a quote libertarian, if a woman wants to be a prostitute, so what? It's not the government's business. It's between her and the individual. It sounded good. And they say it's the world's oldest profession. It's actually the world's oldest oppression, because most of the women today involved in this are not doing it of their own accord. It's either sex trafficking or some type of coercion. The equality model is what I advocate. That is legalizing it, decriminalizing it for the prostitute themselves. Make sure that all of their expunction procedures, for example, women who are, they can't get jobs because they were arrested for prostitution, or they act as drug mules and the like. There is a move right now in the world to remove barriers as to the ability for children to marry and to partake in the sex trade. Mark my words and Mrs. L's words. You are going to see children in sex trade business. Right now, based upon what we are seeing, what we are hearing from people in the business, the number one, listen to me carefully, the number one most preferred age group for trafficking the like is 0 to 2 years old. You think I'm kidding? You think I'm kidding? President Trump has challenges nobody's ever seen before. And it was very simple what the Democratic Party was doing, just ignoring it. Let me ask you a question. Listen to me. Ready for this? One day you wake up and your daughter comes to you frantic. And you say, "What's the matter, honey?" And you say, "There's a deep fake of me that everybody's passing around. And it appears to be your daughter, but it's not your daughter. It's a deep fake. And it's something that would be profane or obscene or whatever you want to call it. Something very, very embarrassing. But it's not your daughter." What laws would affect that right now? None. None. Because it's not her. Is it a parody? What does a deep fake mean? I don't know what that means. What does that mean? I don't know. But if it's a fake, it's not real, right? So how can you, yeah, but it looks like her, but it's not her. The laws have to be changed to adopt and to extend libel to that. You think the Democrats are ready to do that? No, they don't even think about this. Do you see what happened recently with Randy Travis? They created this song that Randy Travis never sang. They took somebody who sounds like him. They took a couple of look what they did with Scarlett Johansson. Same thing. You're going to see everything change drastically because of AI and AGI. And they want you to believe that it's robots. They want you to think that it's something to do with employment or no. Get ready when I tell you this. You have no earthly idea. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for everything. And thank you for having faith in President Trump. What I want you to do is I want you to realize this. He needs you now more than ever. He needs your vote. He needs your participation. He needs you to remain steadfast. Do not veer from him. Do not let this get you down. This isn't even a hiccup. It's not a speed. It's nothing. It's nothing. He's going to win. The thing you've got to do is you've got to promise me you're going to vote for him. If you're not registered to vote, you will register to vote. I want this to be a tsunami. I want them to know that, as the Yamamoto said, they have awakened the sleeping giant and given it and us a terrible resolve. They have created this. I want to be able to look to Joe Biden and say, remember, Joe, you wanted this. And we're going to give it right back to you. I want peaceful, organized, glorious, absolute waves of humanity. And the next, he's going to be speaking 11 o'clock today, I believe. The next rally is going to be ginormous. Do not lose your faith. Do not lose your conviction. Do not watch cable TV. Do not listen to what they're saying. They're going to gloat. They're going to have fun. Let them enjoy it. Let's face it. We do the same thing too, right? We gloated about Hillary. It's okay. It's a human trait. I understand it. I don't care. It does not matter. It's like if little children laugh at you. Does it matter? They're kids. Okay, it may hurt a little bit, may be annoying, but they're kids. What are you going to do? Forget it. They're going to forget the whole thing. That's all I'm saying. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your likes. I appreciate this immensely. We need your likes. It means so much. Your thoughts. We are a brand new world right now. A brand new world. We are a brand new constituency. We are not Democrats. We're not Republicans. We're not the old. We're not the GOP. We're not. No. We are Americans. We are constitutionalists. We believe in the Constitution. We believe in the precepts and the fundamentals of this country. We are American. And we may differ from time to time. That's fine. Just like a family. We disagree with this. We may have different opinions on abortion or whatever, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We're always going to have that. But the first thing is we have to have the Constitution be the lattice work. And there's going to be times when there's going to be some things that are going to be very problematic. You're going to say, well, I'm like abortion, for example. Stay out of that. Republicans, please. For whatever you want to call it, I am pro-choice, meaning I don't think a woman should go to prison for having an abortion. That's what I think. But I hate abortion. Hate it. Hate it. But there's nothing in the Constitution that provides for the right to abortion. None. If the state of Georgia wants to ban it, go ahead. If the state of Georgia wants to provide for it, go ahead. The death penalty. I am against the death penalty though I'm starting to reconsider in some cases. And the reason for that is not because of any kind of morality problem, but because of the fact that we're killing the wrong people. And because the criminal justice system. Listen, after yesterday's conviction, do you want our system to be in charge of meting out the death penalty? You can't appeal a death penalty. I mean, it's rather moot. You can't appeal it. But even though I'm against it, there's nothing in the Constitution that provides for a prohibition against the death penalty. The 5th and 14th Amendment provide the only thing that you cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, meaning that you can be deprived of your life, you can be deprived of your property, and you can be deprived of your liberty so long as the deprivation of such is provided with due process. Sparky says, one of my brothers sent me a link to an AI of Hank Williams Sr. singing straight out of Compton. Not bad. Well, that is going to be some very scary. What that's going to do to intellectual property is another story. But let me explain to you, Mike. Let me go back to what I was saying. And I mean this. The Constitution is what runs our show. You have to, I'm an originalist. And I think this is by definition. There are people in the Constitution, there are people right now, Kagan, Sotomayor, Brown, who want to sit back and they want to say, well, you know what? Let me give you an example. Let's say you were a line judge. I always give this example. You're a line judge at the U.S. Open. Tennis. And you're saying and this Federer or whoever, or Djokovic, whatever, him, in, and you're going, this is ridiculous. They've been having the same alleys, the same, dimensions of the court since the days of Don Budge and Bill Tilden. Come on. I think that tennis is an evolving game. Tennis is a game that should consider the new considerations, the new involvement of, we have aluminum rackets. They had wooden rackets with a press. They had a ball that was dead. You know what? Even though this ball is in, I'm going to call it out, because I think that the rules of tennis should evolve, should change to comport and comply with the new levels of now. But that's what they want to do to the Constitution. They want to change it because, like the idea of privacy. Privacy was William O. Douglas came up with this against the case of Griswold against Connecticut in 1965, because you shouldn't be able to have a statute that prohibits contraception among even married people because of this idea of this thing called privacy. This penumbra of, stop it. That's what the liberal band wants to do. Remember what the Democrats want to do. And this is the reason why we have open borders. Number one, they want to have a permanent democratic state. Number two, they want to repeal the filibuster rule. Number three, they want to pack the Supreme Court. And number four, they want to make D.C. the 51st state. That's it. You can call it replacement theory. You can call it whatever you want. That's exactly what they're doing. And you know it and I do it. Okay, my friends, thank you. I've been with you for an hour and 48 minutes without a break. And it has been an honor. I am honored to speak with you. I am honored by your attention, and I am honored by you granting me and gracing me with the ability to grace the portals of your brain and mind. And I appreciate this. This is it, my friends. Not cable TV. This. Okay? All right. My friends, we will see you tonight at 7 p.m. as usual. Until then, my friends, I ask you, as always, accept my sincere thanks. Remember, God bless America. Vote Trump in 2024. We're going to get through this. Stand firm. Stand tall. I think Burton Cummings said it best. And just remember, this is nothing. And Joe Biden, final word. Remember, you wanted this. All right, dear friends. See you tonight at 7 p.m. Again, to all of the contributors and supporters, thank you so much. There are too many of you to mention, but it means the world to me. See you tonight at 7. And don't forget, my friends, as I always end with this valedictory, this this sayonara, this adios, this denouement, so to speak. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da-da.